Well, we carry all the sovereign mint coins. Ounce gold figurines, of course, the eagle that the U.S. Mint makes, buffalo, Royal Canadian Mint makes a maple leaf that we like a lot. The Perth Mint out of Australia makes the kangaroo. We have the British Royal Mint makes the Britannia. And then you have 1 ounce, 10 ounce, and kilo gold bars that we sell. And those are, generally the smaller the denomination of the product, the higher the premium is going to be. But we always work closely with the clients and look at what they're trying to accomplish with their purchase of gold and or silver. And then we advise what products might best suit their need.
My money. I get money from you.
Money in the bank.
Young money.
It's a rich man's world.
Got out of college, and right out of college, I knew I wanted to do something financial. Started out in real estate for a couple of years. And then in 1974, I had an opportunity to go to the first ever certified financial planners convention. My member number was 80 out of what's turned into hundreds of thousands over the last 50 years. So, but in 1972, Richard Nixon closed where we could go in and trade gold freely in the world market. Quit redeeming gold when foreigners would bring in paper money and buy gold for $45 or $50 an ounce in Europe, but we had it pegged at 32 an ounce here. So in 74, I just started getting interested in it. By 76, I had selected that would be my career. So for 44 years, I started a small gold brokerage firm and helped it one client at a time for 40 years later, over $1 billion in sales of gold to give people the lowest price and not be a telemarketer, deal with financial advisors and be referred by people like you that are in the financial realm dealing with all different entities. So that's how I started. And then Dan joined me in the 90s and he's been with me over 20 years, nearly 25 years.
Wow. So it's, and I can tell people personally that Tom and Dan, they work with people that have impeccable integrity. And anytime I refer anyone in my business, people have to have impeccable integrity. And I can say that easily about Dan and Tom. Now, a couple of things I want to bring it up to is that your offices are located in a very historic place. I think it was St. Simon, Georgia. It's across the way from where the Federal Reserve was created. Which isn't that true?
Yes, our offices are on St. Simon's Island, Georgia, just a tiny stretch of the Atlantic across from Jekyll Island, where the Federal Reserve was founded by several prominent private families. So
Yeah.
It's a little ironic that we do what we do right across from Jekyll Island.
Yeah. So one of the things which a lot of people want to understand what's going on today, why this whole crazy money creation, and it's really caused by the Federal Reserve, and I bring that up, and because one of the things with the Federal Reserve is that, and I'm very clear about this, is that essentially they bail out the banks and Wall Street, and it's been great for them, but it's really kind of killed savers. So preserving your purchasing power is really just it's a huge concern for me and for my clients. Why should people invest in gold and hard assets? Dan or Tom, why should people put their money in gold? I'm sold on it, but why should people do it?
I'll give you one. Dan will have some reasons too, but the number one thing that I look at, Barry, that has never changed in 44 years is that gold moves with the value of the dollar. When the dollar's going up, gold goes down. When the dollar's going down, gold goes up. What your listeners have to understand is that Federal Reserve Act turned everything into a fiat currency, money by decree. They print it, they listed as debt. It's no longer an equity in our country. So just to give you a last 15, 18 months, where it paints a picture for your listeners, is we saw the biggest deficit Obama's last year, 4 years ago, was 1.7 trillion deficit for the fiscal year that ends on September 30th each year. This year, on September 30th, deficit was 3.1.
Yeah, 3.1 trillion.
Nearly double what it had ever been before. But here's the important part. The dollar went from 123 down to 93. And for every 1% the dollar went down, gold went up 5% since last spring of 2019. So gold has gone up approximately 55%. Now here's the punchline. You ain't seen nothing yet. I
Yeah.
don't care who's elected president. We're going to have stimulus. We're going to have people coming in across our borders. We're going to buy their votes by giving them money. We're going to see things of debt creation that we've never seen before. But it's all going to culminate. The sources that Dan and I have overseas tell us that it's already starting in Singapore. There's going to be some kind of reset in the next year and a half. We don't know anything about it, but we trust the people, and the reset will involve gold. So for a person that's just wanting a small percentage for safety, for against the dollar protection, gold offers, because it's liquid anywhere in the world, and you can't make it. It comes out of the ground very slowly compared to the printing presses.
I call it God's money. I think Robert Kiyosaki, amen. I'm a Christian, full disclosure, but I call it God's money because they can't create it out of thin air. And the funniest thing, which I find my son, who's working here with me now, is that he lived in China for 6 years. But if you look at the outside this country, Tom, you see the Chinese, the Indians, the Europeans. Everyone else is really, they get about gold. Am I correct? I mean, they warehouse gold in a big way, but it's still kind of a learning curve in this country. Am I correct?
That is correct. All the, Eastern world has been buyers and holders of gold for decades, much more so than the Western world. Now, that's flipped some here this year, substantially turned around, but India, Russia, China, especially their central banks, are big holders and buyers of gold. And now, in today's world, just about every central bank of any note is a big buyer and holder of gold.
I don't know, Barry, to add to what he's saying, just think it was last March when the tier one investment went in for gold. Banks can now buy gold and count on their balance sheet at market value rather than what they paid for it, which is the way it was. Now we've had a huge surge in central banks buying, and then we get good news 2 weeks ago that we're going to have 401k access. All the years that 401ks were set up by insurance companies and brokerage firms, a client could not put 401k in physical gold. Some would allow to buy an ETF, most wouldn't. But we now have this new source of demand that's unbelievable. I mean, just in the short time, in 15 months, central banks are buying, they're the biggest buyer of gold. And then now we just got the 401k thing starting at a time the dollar is expected to go from 93 to 72. And if it goes down 20%, that's going to be 100% rise for gold, which would put gold at 3,800 to 4,000. And that's where it's headed. I mean, whether people like it or not, that's where it's headed. Because stimulus printing of money is not going to stop here. It's going to pick up, and people are going to pick up and follow it around the world until finally there's a reset. And that's what people have to realize. When it is reset, it's going to be at a staggering number.
Yeah. Last week I interviewed, I don't know, Paul Craig Roberts. He's a great guy. He's an economist, and he used to write for the Wall Street Journal, and he has his PhD in economics. And we were talking about gold, and unfortunately right now, companies like banks like JP Morgan, knock down the price of gold with naked shorts and that type of financial engineering. But as Voltaire says, all paper currency eventually reaches its value, intrinsic value, which is nothing. So I think who only God knows what's going to happen in the future. But what's gold now? I don't know. You guys follow. What's gold today or yesterday? What was it? How much an ounce?
The New York spot for gold about an hour ago was 1908.
1908. Okay, so since I've known you, Tom, I think gold was, I don't know, $1,200, $1,300 an ounce, something like that. So
when I first met you at that first conference, and then by the time we hooked up a couple of years later, it gone about 12, 13. So in 2 years, it's gone from 13 to, just like I told you, right about 55% since the dollar started. It's decreased from 123 down to 93.
So a lot of people say, and I easily foresee this, you're going to see $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 an ounce for gold at some point. It looks that way. I mean, if you look at history, it could be going that way. We don't know, only God knows, but could you foresee that?
I mean, I would perceive it, as I said, and I think you'll have a reset with some kind of currency that's backed by some kind of gold percentage. I don't think it'll be 100%, but if some country like China puts up a Chinese yuan gold-backed currency at 40% or 25% of the two numbers we hear the most often from our sources, then certainly you'll have that gold as a stability, because the money printing, we keep saying, it can't go on forever. At some point, the intrinsic value, as you said, becomes zero. At that point, people are not going to make these kind of salaries and things they make. They're going to put things at a much more level playing field, because the rich get richer, as we all know, and we're not against that, but we're doing nothing to change that in the governments around the world.
Yeah. Now the funny thing is that, but any people, and this is the funny thing, which I guess we've been so conditioned in this country. I've found some people, some friends who are extremely wealthy. They actually have no gold, and it's kind of really folly that they don't have money in gold. But would you still see that today? Some pretty high net worth people without any gold whatsoever, Tom?
I do, Barry. I see it all the time. I had a Zoom meeting this morning with a wealthy investor from out west, and he has zero, and he's worth tens of millions of dollars. And but people just don't realize, we just saw the pandemic start and how hard it was. We were sitting here getting delivery 4 to 8 weeks after we sell the gold, and some clients get frustrated, but you can't bring billions of dollars into a market that's used to trading tens of millions of dollars and not have the physical disappear. And that's the reason we think it's going to be extremely hard with the 401ks people and the central bank people that, like you, that call for diversification in a portfolio. We're seeing more of that. The fastest growing part of our business is people, financial advisors, finally throwing the towel in and saying, golly, this makes sense. Or their customers mad at them because they're not telling them where to get it. And that's the other thing I love knowing you and people like you, is you've done the research to find out lowest prices, the best kinds, anything you need to know that could be a bump in the road. We educate all the way. And then it's just incredible when we have people call and say, how can you sell it at that lower markup? Of course, you got to do volume. You got to do big orders and deal with wealthy people. But that's where we've evolved over 44 years, from starting with one guy that want 2,500 and selling one little guy at a time.
So
anybody's business is successful.
But the funny thing is that I've researched this, Tom, and because they can't destroy, they can't make it, they can't manufacture it out of thin air. But gold has been a huge institutional investment. I'm like University of Texas, right? They have roughly about $1 billion in gold. And I guess it was Robert Bass, the financier, the big financier, one of the big Wall Street greats, who kind of recommended it. The University of Texas put it in their portfolio. And is it true that Texas is the first state in the country with a gold depository? Is there where you can deposit your gold?
I'll answer this. I'm more involved in that than Dan. It has been cleared to be built in Austin. There was a big fight over where it's going to be in Austin or Dallas. And we even had the guy that ran for president some years ago, don't recall his name right this second, but that owns Love Field, he even offered to have it built at Love Field where people could fly in with their private planes and put the gold out. But it ended up back in Austin. But it's not just the state, it's not just the pension plan of that. We're seeing this thing now with other, even us, dealing with people and institutions that we can't say it's the University of Texas pension plan. But we're dealing with people like that too, that are now buying gold. And Texas has started that going. And you're going to see nothing but growth in that as we go along. It's just no way it's just now the way we feel starting. I mean, everybody said, are we late to the game? No, the dollar's still going to go down. Still, it's not recognized as a reserve currency anymore. And that's what exactly is going to happen. And no matter who goes in, this next president, it's going to be great for gold. Either way.
You win either way. Yeah, and I watched that debate last night or something, but and one of the things which I value in my life anyhow, you have incredible integrity, and which it means everything to me. But I just saw it was last night or yesterday or this morning, it was a Goldman Sachs system. Well, actually, I kind of do business with them, but they're paying a $5 billion fine, and I don't have to worry. I mean, you have incredible integrity. Now, the whole thing is, but I recommend the actual bullion for people because we actually, you can get through gold and through ETFs and things like that. But how can people take possession of gold, Tom? And Dan, how can they take it? Say I want to buy 10,000 or 100,000 worth of gold. How can I take possession of it, or can you store it for me? What can you do? What can you do for me?
That's up to the client, but we have a couple of options, several options actually. You can take delivery of it at your home, your business. We recommend having a secure location, a secure safe, things of that nature. If you do take delivery of it, you're dealing with silver, which we hadn't talked much about. It takes up a lot of space, and it leads to it being a good idea to have it stored. We have a decades-long relationship with for a storage facility, and they have a location in Delaware, one in Texas, one in Canada. And we have Tom negotiated it's only for our clients, but we negotiated the lowest rates for storage. It's actually significantly less than a safety deposit box. We have that type of storage available to any client that wants to utilize that service.
Okay. Now, and what do you usually see? Is it in Canadian maple leafs or Krugerrands? Or how is it usually delivered, Tom? Or you tell me.
Well, we carry all the sovereign mint coins. Ounce gold Krugerrands, of course, the Eagle that the U.S. Mint makes, Buffalo, Royal Canadian Mint makes a maple leaf that we like a lot. The Perth Mint out of Australia makes the Kangaroo. We have the British Royal Mint makes the Britannia. And then you have 1 ounce, 10 ounce, and kilo gold bars that we sell. And those are, generally the smaller the denomination of the product, the higher the premium is going to be. But we always work closely with the clients and look at what they're trying to accomplish with their purchase of gold and or silver. And then we advise what what products might best suit their need, whether it's a kilo gold bar or 1 ounce gold bar or a Kruger
What's a kilo of gold go for? There must be something rated as a lost ark. I mean, how much is that worth?
60,000.
60,000 for a kilo of gold?
32.15 ounces.
Yeah, so it's a kilo. So I mean, do people actually buy kilos of gold?
Absolutely.
A lot of them. Still a lot of them.
Okay. One of the questions I had: how can people own gold? I like when people take physical custody of gold. Okay, but we also like ETFs, whatever. I prefer the hard asset myself, but. Say say I have a client. I do have a prospect. Or say they have, well, actually, they have roughly about 3-4 million in liquid cash. Okay, right now, and it's in a state. Or let's say, how long should people hold gold? I mean, is it a decent investment for several years, or is it a very long-term purchase? You tell me. I mean. I kind of look at it as a long purchase, but is it a good place to store value for several years?
Yeah, no question, Barry. And right now, I mean, it's people were coming in 10 years ago, going long term. They've seen gold go from 800 to 1900. And the ones going in now, we think are going to see a quicker price increase. And like I said, we've got so many new money managers that are recommending their clients take a position. You know, I don't make that decision. Ours to be the facilitator, not tell your client how much percentage-wise they need to put in to go. But the timing, you know, it's always there it's liquid anywhere in the world. It's instant liquid. Every major wholesaler posts a price every day to buy to us as well as sell to us. So you've got that. Anytime they want to get out, it's easy to get liquid. But because of the events we've been talking about, we expect a faster appreciation. We expect it to get to 3,800, 4,000 a lot quicker than it went from 900 to 1,900.
Yeah, I hate to
well
agree.
over a decade. Still a great price.
So what I'm saying is, if a customer comes down and they plops down $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million, let's say, and they bought it for you today, and say 2 years from now they want to sell it, is there any problem with them on getting rid of that if they need that gold for, let's say, a business or real estate, or is there any problem getting rid of it?
There is no problem whatsoever. The gold is very liquid. The client just simply calls us. We lock in a price. They have to ship it to our warehouse. If it's in storage, it's even simpler. They just call. We sell it on their behalf. They sign it. We sign a form. They sign a form, and they get a check generally within 12 days. Sometimes less.
All right. So that's a big question. Liquidity. And it's just like, no one would disagree that something like real estate, if you know what you're doing, it can be a really great investment for people, but try to sell real estate can be as frozen as a lake in the wintertime up in the north, so but not so with gold. So we can liquidate it, in other words.
Absolutely, yes.
What about people say, I have a lot of people come up with retirement savings, because that's where the most of the money is today. Can people put the physical gold in their IRA or that type of thing, Dan or Tom?
Yeah, it has to be an approved product. It's a government sponsored vehicle, so you've got a few rules and regulations we have to abide by. But there's a plethora of different products. Basically, if it's a 4.9 pure gold product, or if it's a U.S. made product, they're going to qualify for an IRA. Those are self-directed precious metals IRAs. We're not a custodian. We serve as the broker designated representative in that category. And the custodians that we work with several very closely, and they do a good job. So yes, you can put physical gold, silver, for that matter, platinum or palladium into an IRA.
All of us, Barry, we're seeing so many people rolling out and retiring. And the biggest part of our IRA business right now is a guy leaves a company, he has a few $100,000, he wants to put some into gold. So he does a self-directed precious metals IRA, and then he has another IRA for stocks and bonds and cash. But we're seeing so many people that have created two self-directed IRAs after they took their money out of a 401k where they're leaving or have already left. And I mean, it's amazing to see the growth. I mean, we have hundreds, probably between 1,000, 1,500. These accounts have been set up the last 3 years. I mean, that's just the IRA side. As Dan said, we can't be the custodian, but we can be the broker and the representative.
Which is a great deal, because most people are coming out of a 401k, they're gonna need income. So I love gold as preservation of value and stored value, okay? But the downside of gold, and it doesn't produce any income, unless I don't know, am I correct, guys? Gold doesn't produce a dividend or interest of any kind. It's just a preservation of value. Am I correct?
We don't lease gold. There is a stream you can get, but it's very small. It's below 1% where you can float and go. But we quit doing that 22 years ago.
Okay, so so I don't recommend gold as an income stream. I recommend it as a preservation
Right.
of wealth. Yeah. So
Diversification, that's what it is.
how has gold performed over the past 10, 20 years, Tom or Dan? I mean, just as a maintaining its value.
But I can tell you from, I was making a speech at a ministry out in Idaho. This is back in September of 2012. And it brings another thing I want to say earlier, I forgot. If we talk about JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs going short and causing gold and silver to dip at different times, what people don't realize they're doing it to buy more. From January of 2000 until September of 2012, 12 years in there, gold went from 256 all the way up to 1880. And it's just the exact opposite. JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs were going long gold and silver for 12 years. Now, most people, because they didn't get involved in it, come along now and they look at it from 2012 where it got up to 1800 and something, and now it's just gotten back up there years later. Okay? So for them, it hasn't done yet, what it would do, but we've seen it since March of last year. I'll say it the third time, go up 55% because the dollar is falling, stimulus money's coming all over the world, and it's just an ideal time for them to come in. So the price is back now to 2012 to now. So people that bought in 2012 have been preserving their wealth. They haven't been making anything, but they're back even. While those that bought last year are up 55% already in 15 months. We think it's going to continue.
How can guys, this has been great today. How can guys find out more about you? How can they connect with you? Full disclosure, I do business with the Tom Cloud, and because of integrity, but how can people find out more about you guys? How can they connect with you guys?
A couple of ways. We have a website. It is cloudhardassets.com. Tom's last name, cloudhardassets.com. We have pictures of some of the products we sell. We also have some pricing. Matter of fact, I just updated that about an hour ago. And the other way is to call on the toll-free number, 800-247-2812. Now, we're on the East Coast, like we mentioned earlier, on St. Simon's Island. So we're here from 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, Eastern time. So again, 800-247-2812, give us a call. We'll be glad to take care of you.
Yeah, I know you will, and you've talked to friends and clients of mine around the country. So this has been a great interview, guys, and we'll be posting this on the YouTube channel, The Economic Warrior. And again, if people need any more help with this stuff, contact me at barrymjamesdyke.com, or please connect with Dan or Tom at Cloud Hard Assets. And always good to see you, Tom. I got to visit. I have to go down there and visit you one of these days. I have to go.
Have dinner again. We had a great stimulating dinner out there in Estes Park. That was a good memory. We need to do it again.
He counted on America to be passive. He counted wrong.